All right, hello everyone. To introduce myself, I'm Michael James and I'm a portfolio manager at EPSRC. And Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Sarah King, portfolio manager again at EPSRC in the research infrastructure theme, and I have responsibility within that theme for both RSEs and software.
So we're going to talk today about the software for research communities funding opportunity. So I'm going to share my screen. And we'll go through a short presentation, and then mainly it will be a Q&A session, and we'll answer any questions. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see the presentation.
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode. It's in standard format at the moment, Michael.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, this is the software for research communities funding opportunity. To sort of give an overview, first of all, there's 4.5 million available in total, and that's coming from our research infrastructure budget. One of the most common questions we get is there any maximum or minimum limits to the funding? We haven't specified any, and that's because we expect there'll be a wide range of funding requested, from small high impact activities through to larger projects. And EPSRC does intend to fund multiple proposals with this funding opportunity rather than one big proposal. Projects can be up to 3 years in length, and they're funded at 80% FEC. So there are two stages. The first is an intent to submit, and the deadline is coming up soon. It's 14th of September at 4 p.m. And this is just a short smart survey form. It consists of just asking for who the PIs and co-Is are of the project, the title and the theme area, a brief description of the project, and it's not assessed. It's basically used for demand management internally, because we will be delegating the peer review process through to the specific thematic areas. So the full proposal deadline is 14th of October at 4 p.m. Proposals will go to a theme panel at the most relevant theme in January and February 2022. And grants can start from the 1st of April 2022. It is possible to delay the start date by up to 3 months from this date. So the scope of the funding opportunity, in terms of remit, it's the majority of research enabled by the proposed software development should be within the engineering and physical sciences remit. Funding can be requested for the following activities: development and re-engineering of existing software, maintenance activities, and activities that widen participation in development and maintenance. So essentially, we're looking at funding existing software rather than the creation of new software. Applicants should demonstrate community demand for the proposed software development. So we encourage people to talk to the user community to find their software requirements. And this can be evidenced in a proposal through, for example, letters of support. We allow up to 3 letters of support for applications. And essentially, the ultimate end goal is to fund sustainable software, which is why we're requesting that software is funded where there is a community demand. So in terms of what we're looking for, some specifics. So open source software is encouraged but not required for this call. We recognize that there are instances where non-open source software might be required, and software should not be wholly commercially owned. In terms of the size of the project, there should be large or growing demand for the proposed software development. We will fund small, high impact projects as well as large projects. And in terms of what you should request in a proposal, we leave that up to you to what you think you can best justify in your proposal, and we'll primarily be assessing on quality when it comes to the panels. So in terms of who can apply, so this is focused on RSEs for an RSE conference. RSEs are eligible to be PI or co-I on proposals, and RSE time can also be requested as staff on a proposal. And if on multiple proposals, we ask that time requested should not exceed 100% should you be funded for all of the requested proposals. So who can be the users of the software? Industry and third sector can be some of the user base, but we ask that there is an academic community of users in order to be eligible. There is no requirement on users being based in the UK. And so long as there is research enabled that's majority EPSRC remit, the end users don't actually have to be within EPS. In terms of project partners, industry partners can be included on a proposal as a project partner. Project partners can provide a financial or in-kind contribution to the project. In both cases, these should be quantified. EPSRC policy has actually changed from the 17th of August, and we now allow project partners to receive small amounts of funding from a grant, such as for travel and subsistence to attend project meetings. These will need to be requested by the PI and will be fully justified. These will be paid to the PI as directly allocated costs at 80% FEC. And further details just refer to the project partners section of our website. So as I say, the majority of this will be a Q&A. So I'll stop sharing and we can slide it.
Yeah, shall I start running through the Slido questions? Okay. Yeah, we've got the first question. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, what would be good evidence that the community wants the software that I am proposing to develop? Should I conduct a survey or hold a user meeting? I mean, yeah, I think conducting a survey or holding a user meeting is definitely a good way of identifying the demand from your community. And what we would suggest probably is that you evidence that as sort of like as a data gathering exercise within your case for support, so you can show what the results of that survey or the responses at your user meeting. Okay. Second, is it important for me to think about the long-term sustainability of my software? What evidence do I need to show that there is a research need for my code? Yes, we are looking for, I think in everything that we do within the research councils, we are looking for software, we're looking to fund software that is sustainable in the future, basically because it's an economic way to do things. What evidence do you need to show that there is a research need for your code? Again, that's evidence from your community, demonstrating community need.
Yeah, so I think if there's evidence of community demand, that does contribute to the long-term sustainability of the software, because you're growing the community around the software. Okay, the next one. Is this call geared towards researchers so they can get their software supported, or towards RSEs directly to improve relevant software tooling? It's not just for RSEs. There's going to be academics applying to this as well. Yeah,
with RSEs on their proposals as well. So it's both really. But yeah, if PIs are applying, then to a certain extent, we would probably expect to see RSEs being actually directly involved in the application.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, RSEs can be PIs and co-Is on the school as well.
Okay. Yeah, and another question, can you repeat the bit about end users versus research being in remit? Can we further expand on this?
Yeah, so as an example, if you're enabling AI on software that benefits users in STFC remit, the addition of the AI would be EPSRC research that's being enabled. So if that's kind of what I was thinking. I don't know, Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure in terms of the question whether they're asking about the end users not actually being involved in research versus the software being developed purely to enable research. Is it possible to clarify, or can anybody clarify that what they meant by that question? We can come back to it if necessary. Let's have a look at the chat. Okay, yeah, if we come back to that one, if we can get a bit more clarity, or maybe whoever asked the question could possibly come back to us on that. Will there be any feedback after the intention to submit stage about whether the proposal is suitable for the call and the EPSRC remit? If it's
well, there's there's no assessment of the intent to submit. If you are unsure whether it's in remit, then we encourage you to get in contact with us. Our contact details are on the software funding opportunity page.
Yeah. If it is found to be outside of remit, then we do reserve. We always, in all our calls, we reserve the right to not take it further. That is one of the things that we do. We always include in our funding calls. Okay. Feedback. I have an idea for some software I want to develop, but I don't have any users yet. How can I find a community of researchers who want to use my code?
So we are only funding instances where there is already established code, first of all. If the code already exists but doesn't have users, it would still be eligible, but I think you would need to know where you're going with the code and reach out to the user community and demonstrate that they have demand for this code.
Okay. Right, Michael, could you is it possible to share the screen again? Because
yes.
We've got there's a comment in the chat. It's just the slide went by too fast regarding the end users versus research being within remit. So if we could just quickly go back to the slides and see if we can pull that slide up.
So I think this is the slide in question. So essentially what I was saying is the research enabled by the software development activity should be within EPSRC remit, or the majority of it should be within EPSRC remit. Yeah.
Okay, hopefully that answers the question. If there's anything outstanding at the end of this, please feel free to email Michael and I or the research infrastructure inbox, and we will come back to you on that. Okay, what do you consider a large, back to the questions, what do you consider a large demand? Is there an appropriate number of users? That's like, how long is a piece of string, really? I think in many respects it depends what you're asking for. If you're coming in as a large project, then we would be looking for a substantial number of users. If, say, an RSE is coming in with a project that is building on taking a project that's already been developed and taking it to the next level, then we wouldn't be looking for that same extensive number of users. That's a very difficult question to actually give you a ballpark figure on even.
Yeah, and large demand and or growing demand. So we're not excluding codes that have a small user base.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. Can an RSE without a contract currently lasting longer than the project be a co-I or PI, even if the project will employ them for the time period?
So our website has information on eligibility to be PI or co-I. Definitely the PI has to be employed longer than the time period of the project.
Yeah.
There is a slight difference with the co-I, so I'll look it up and I can get back.
Right, okay. Is statistical software within the remit, e.g. to develop and implement stats methods, but the main beneficiaries, stats ecologists, are not in remit? The software that we are looking to be produced within this call needs to enable research within EPSRC's remit. So I would say that because the beneficiaries are outside of EPSRC's remit, that then even though it's statistical software, then it wouldn't be in remit unless you can justify that there are areas within, there are beneficiaries in addition to the ecologists that are in EPSRC's remit. You need to justify that within your proposal. Okay.
I'll post in the general chat. All panelists and attendees. This is eligibility for funding.
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks, Michael. Okay. Next question. What sort of software falls within the bounds? Ansible playbooks and Docker files, install scripts, or are we to focus on packaged software libraries? Not sure we can answer that at this moment. I think that's a question we need to take away and just explore that a bit further. Okay, if we can keep that question for future. Can PhD students be included as users?
As users of the software, I think yes.
Yeah, because they're part of the user community.
Yeah,
you can evidence them as part of the user community. Okay. Is there a per institution limit on applications? No, not on this call. Okay. Is there a maximum or recommended number of co-investigators? No, there's no maximum or recommended number. You just need to, you just need to justify the number of co-investigators that you do have on your application, and that it's appropriate for the work that you're proposing. Okay. Will an application from an RSE angle without a specific research target be acceptable? i.e., do I need to include a researcher? You don't have to include a researcher, but what you do need to demonstrate is that the work that you're proposing within your application will enable research within EPSR's remit. So no, you don't have to have a researcher, but you do need to demonstrate that the work has got a community need, and it meets demands. It enables research within EPSRC's remit. Okay, can a COI be involved in several applications from the same institution? Yes, again, with that, the 100% limit, we cannot fund an individual. If you're asking for costs and salary costs and things like that for an individual, a COI, and they are successful in a number of proposals, that their salary cannot exceed the 100% of their salary. We won't fund them over 100%. It's unlikely that you get that far, but that is the limit that we did. That's the restriction we do have, and that's a UKRI wide general terms and conditions restriction. What's the principal difference between CCP and this call? The principal difference, I would say, is the CCPs in the past have been very large scale, large value projects. What we've tried to do with this call is to offer the opportunity for much smaller scale funding to be requested. One of the things that one of the conversations we had with people from the Society of Research Software Engineers and some of our RSE fellows was that there were pieces of software that had been developed that needed, say, maybe another 6 months or maybe 50,000–60,000 pounds worth of funding to just take that to the next level. And therefore grow the community. That's what we've tried to include in this call, and that's why we've not set a restriction on maximum or minimum. You know, we're happy to see small short-term projects coming in as well.
Try and encompass the whole funding pipeline.
Yeah. Okay. Should I include researchers as co-Is? You can do, yeah. There's no problem. To be honest, it's more a case of if they are integral to the project, include them. If they're not, then there's no need to. Okay. Are the other research councils ever likely to do something like this? Or could it ever be done at a UKRI level to allow more interdisciplinary applications? I don't know whether the other research councils are likely to do that. Funding for software is something that is being looked at within the Digital Research Infrastructure Strategy, which is a UKRI wide strategy. It is within its early stages of development, and I think one of the approaches it is looking to do is to do things much more interdisciplinary, and do things more cross-council. So I think the answer to that is, at the moment, we're not aware of anything going on in other councils. But watch this space. I mean, it could be at least another 12 months, 3 years in the future. I
agree. There's nothing that I'm aware of that is imminently coming, but there is potentially interest from other research councils.
Yeah, I think the fact that software is now recognised to be such an integral part of research, and that so many different disciplines require software to sort of like to enable and further their research. I think the use of software is beginning to get a much higher profile, and that is across probably all the councils. So yes, it is something that we as an organization need to address. Okay. Will you fund my software if there is already a competitor piece of software? What do I need to show that my software would be better?
I think if our sort of aim is not to push software onto a community, it's to have funding for where there is community demand for the software. So if you can sort of demonstrate that your software has the demand of the community, then I think that makes it more likely to be funded from the school.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would need to demonstrate why. I think you would need to show why your software, what additional functionality and the benefits of that additional functionality that you're proposing to put in your software is that much better than something that is already out there. Okay. Next question is, can I include anonymous users in my case? I know roughly how many users are downloading my open source software, but I don't know what they're doing with it. Okay.
It can be part of the justification is saying I have so many users using it, but I think if you're proposing a new direction for the software with software development, or a new software development to enable some new piece of research, I think there should be some evidence that there is a community need for that.
Yeah, because I think I'm kind of hesitant in the fact that users are downloading it, but you don't know what they're doing with it. If they're just downloading it and not actually making use of it, I think it would be useful to know what they're actually achieving with it and how they're using it, if that's possible to obtain. I'd say that's the response to that one. Okay. Must the proposed program of work run for 3 years, or can it be shorter? Could it be advantageous to have a shorter, less costly proposal? Yes, that is one of the things that we would be that we've tried to include in that. You don't have to propose something that's going to run for 3 years. It definitely can be shorter. Okay. To clarify, while it's okay to have international collaborators on the project, the funding must go to UK staff, faculty, and material. Yes, I don't think we have the ability to pay international collaborators. I think if they were project partners, then this new rewording that came in the middle of August does indicate that we can cover some TNS and things like that. But we can't pay staff. We can't pay international
I think
staff.
If there are collaborators, there is the potential for them to be subcontracted.
Yeah, that's a different heading again, isn't it?
Yeah, I think specifically for subcontracting, you need to do a tender process and show value for money.
Yeah, there's again, I think that is on our website, isn't it? With this new wording.
Yeah, under directly incurred.
Yeah, and again, there is new wording.
Allocated, maybe.
I think it's directly. Yeah, there is. There again is updated wording on that quite recently that came in along with the project partner changes. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, directly incurred other costs.
That's it. Can we include costs to have RSEs engaged in relevant outreach and training?
So Do you have a response for this one, Sarah?
I don't think we've included outreach and training specifically.
We haven't included it specifically. What you can request funds for is impact activities.
And haven't we got something about growing the community as well? So let me just check. Yeah, you could possibly include that under activities that widen participation in development and maintenance. So what I mean, widening participation, excuse me. Yes, you could include costs if you were running workshops to train the community on your software, on your new software, because you are reaching out to a wider community. Okay. The next question, what is the principal difference between the past software for the future calls and this call? Again, the principal difference is the introduction of the opportunity for smaller projects to come in. Again, software for the future calls have also been quite large scale, £800,000 3-year projects for very, very large established communities.
In addition to that, I think they've, at least one of them, funded new research activities, and
yes,
we found that there was not a tremendous amount of uptake from new software that had been funded in the past. Hence the move to existing software and showing demand from the research community in an attempt to make more sustainable software that we fund.
Okay, and the next question, can you offer guidance on the up to 3 letters of support not being project partners? Are you specifically looking for letters from users? Yeah, I think in the letters of support we would suggest that those were used to demonstrate the community demand for what you're proposing in your in the work that you're putting in your application. They are very different to what the project partner letters of support are completely different to the standard letters of support. But yeah, that's what we would expect.
For the 3 letters of support from community, I think it's not a popularity contest, so that's why it's sort of limited to 3. And it's up to you to sort of choose 3 well-positioned users of software who can ably state the full range of software development requested in a proposal.
Yeah, and I think certainly looking at some of the letters of support we've seen in the past, it would be beneficial to not just receive letters of support that just say, I support this person because they're really, really good. Have evidence and justification of why they are, why your community is supporting what your application is proposing to do. That would be a good use of your letters of support. Okay. The next question is, can we include users on the application, e.g. clinicians, without them actually being co-Is, e.g. as a collaborator or similar? Yeah.
So if it's someone if a user is as a co-I, they could be contributing some of their time for the testing of a software.
Yeah, I think my
Yeah,
hesitation is on the term clinicians, um, because I think one of the things, especially we've had a number of inquiries with regards to software that is primarily going to be used in a clinical setting, and the beneficiaries are patients and clinicians. If that is research enabled, then that is acceptable. If it's purely, it kind of like doesn't fall within our remit. If it is purely sort of like clinical patient how to put it, if it's purely to support patient sort of like treatment and things like that, that really falls within MRC's remit. So when we've had the questions with regards to when we've got sort of like clinical settings and things like that, we do need to be a little bit more careful and ensure that there is a research enabled that is within EPSRC's remit.
you can look up the research areas on the EPSRC website. So for instance, the bioinformatics or the healthcare,
yeah, healthcare technologies
technologies,
yeah,
to see if it's likely to fall within scope.
Okay.
So with I think to sort of expand on that question, it was also, can they be on an application but not be a co-I? So can they be a collaborator or similar? So we could include a project partner, but I don't think there's other mechanisms beyond that.
Yeah, I think they would need to be a project partner rather than a collaborator. If their collaboration, I think, would come in terms of a project partner. Okay. Next question. Do you anticipate more calls like this in the future, and how often? The issue that we have is that we've only got a 12-month spending review at the moment, so we do not know what funding we have. The spending review was only announced yesterday by BEIS, by the government and BEIS. So, and I understand it to be a 3-year spending review. So until we know what that looks like, whilst we would like to have more calls like this, then our hands are tied really until we know what funding we have to disseminate.
Within research infrastructure theme, we do balance funding for different things, including software. And we take it to our advisory board to sort of get an idea of where our money is best spent. EPSRC has a software infrastructure strategy published in 2018 that does commit to funding software in general. So we do hope in future that we are able to run more calls. But yeah, due to the spending review, we're not able to commit to anything.
Okay. The next question, would it be advantageous for me to propose software that is going to be merged into a larger project, e.g. Skippy, or a larger framework?
I think it's SciPy.
Is it SciPy?
I
don't know. Okay, SciPy. Would it be advantageous to propose? I don't think it. Would it be advantageous? I think as long as you can justify the community need and the demand for that software, where it's actually going to in the future, if you can demonstrate that is it enhances its long-term sustainability by being merged into a larger project, then it's definitely worth making those points. Those points will, when you look at the assessment criteria, when it goes to panel, they will be things that will be pointed out. But I wouldn't say whether it's any more advantageous to do that, to have that, versus something that isn't being merged into a larger project.
You can definitely make the case that you can justify the increase in sustainability through doing something like that.
Okay. And next question, does it matter if the community is spread over the world? Does there need to be a significant user community in the UK, or can it be more widespread? Okay, I think we've said in the presentation that the users don't have to be in the UK. There can be international users as well.
Okay. Yeah, so there's no preference for the user base being UK or international.
Okay. And next question, can letters of support be from researchers in my current research group? Do they have to be from UK users?
Not from UK users, because we're not specifying a UK user base.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't if the researchers in the current user group are part of the community that your software is supporting, then that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, maybe one of the letters of support, otherwise it might be indicative
of a small community.
That is, and the software funding is only benefiting the research group rather than an expansive user base.
Yeah, I think it would be, I think, as Michael says, yeah, it would be of benefit to have letters of support, yes, from a letter of support from your current research group, but also wider support as well. Okay. Can I work on supporting software that was originally funded by STFC? That depends on who the beneficiaries are of that software in terms of researchers. If that software is enabling research within EPSRC's remit, the fact that it was originally funded by STFC is not an issue. If the software is predominantly enabling funding within STFC, then that would be an issue.
Yeah, so the research enabled remit is the primary focus, not whether it was originally funded.
Yeah, if the proposal is to modify it, to expand it, to grow it, to the benefit of researchers within EPSRC's remit, that's absolutely fine. Okay. If you're applying to other sources for maintenance of this software, is it a problem with also applying to this call? I mean, if the fact that you are getting funding from elsewhere, I don't think has any relevance or any. It doesn't change what you're asking for from us, I don't think.
If, for instance, you're funded through a fellowship, there might be terms and conditions that state that you can't apply to other sources of funding. Yeah,
if you're and also if you're 100% funded, if you're 100% funded via your, or if you're for example, for a fellowship, yes, you would need to show that the work that you're doing and is relevant to the funding that you're already receiving within your fellowship. Because I think that's one of the stipulations, I think, of one of the, it depends which fellowship it is, of course.
Yeah, so it is terms and conditions might of the other funding source might prevent it, but
yeah,
I think from our perspective, you can apply to this call.
Because in all honesty, if you didn't tell us, we wouldn't know. Because we wouldn't, I don't think we see, you know, if you're applying to things like the Chan Zuckerberg or the Wellcome Foundation, we wouldn't see applications for what potentially could be identical pieces of work. Okay, and the final question. Just to confirm, past recipients of CCP and software for the future grants can still apply to this call for the evolving needs of their project. Yes, CCPs and software for the future applicants can apply, and for evolving needs of their project, yes, and also, I think you'd need to sort of like demonstrate as well the community aspect of it. If whatever you're doing is growing your growing the community, growing your CCP community, or whatever. Okay. Right, that was the last question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sarah and Michael. I always forget to mute the second screen when I do this. That's where we get the echo. That was really incredible. Actually, you exhausted all of the questions from the RSE community, and those kind of sessions where you're just bombarded question after question, I know are extremely difficult. So I think on behalf of the entire community, thank you so much for going through everything. That was extremely informative. And I know just from the people here who are live, and also I think people who will watch this on YouTube, that's very much appreciated. And yeah, I can see in the chat lots of applause. The only problem with online, you can't hear the people clapping.
Okay, yeah, if you can Chris, there's one question
Sarah,
that we were going to
I keep going, sorry, because I'm muted, I couldn't hear you.
Okay, yeah, there was one question about the was it ANSYL libraries? If you can pass that back to us, we can have a look at that one, because I don't know I definitely don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so we've got all of the questions are archived on the Slido. So if you look on the archive list, you'll get all of them there.
Right. Okay, I'll have a look there.
And it said, there's somebody asked me during if we're going to write this up, and my answer was, this is being recorded and will be on YouTube. And I think there's too much information to type up. So to watch it again on live. But cool, so that's the end of this session. Thank you everyone for attending this. So tomorrow, we have a presentation session 2, which will start at 10:30, where we have 3 talks: Clowntown, a look at software engineering on the other side of the chasm. We have the University of Sheffield Research Software Survey and the Turing Way Guide to Reproducible, Ethical and Collaborative Research from 10:30 to 12 tomorrow morning. And then this is one of the things I've been looking forward to. Like, you know, the new thing in the conference, in the afternoon, we have the first of our discussion sessions. So these are like our talk radio stroke kind of like discussion chats, which will be going on. And this is industrial software development practices. Do they work in academia? Should RSEs learn and use them? Which I think we have quite a panel with interesting and diverging views, and it should be a very entertaining thing to listen to. But otherwise, thank you everybody for coming. If you want to network afterwards in Gathertown, please feel free. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for the next day of SeptembRSE. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Bye.